What's good? It's Woog. I wanted to take a moment and talk about a topic in hip hop that a lot of people seem pretty fired up and emotionally invested about. And that is the topic of legendary MC Melle Mel, formerly of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and his criticism over Eminem, or if not flat out criticism, then just the opinion that Eminem did not deserve to be mentioned as a top 5 rapper of all time when Billboard released their 50 greatest rappers of all time list. So basically you had one of the most essential hip hop pioneers criticizing or denying the place on the pantheon of the all-time greats to arguably one of the GOATs in rap history. So before I weigh in on how I feel about that, I just want to establish who Melle Mel is. If there is somebody who is qualified to speak on this topic, it's Melle Mel. Melle Mel was the person you heard rapping on half of the verses on one of the most iconic rap songs ever, The Message, 1982. They also had White Lines in 1983, but The Message is "Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge." So there are two voices you hear on that track. There is Melle Mel, he's the more animated one, "Broken glass everywhere." And then you've got the smoother one, and that is Duke Booty. He's the one, he actually has some iconic lines in that song. He's the one who said, "I keep my hand on the gun cause they got me on the run." Remember Snoop Dogg used that in Two of America's Most Wanted with Tupac? And he also said in that same song, The Message, something about all about the money, ain't a damn thing funny. But Melle Mel is the louder voice that you hear on the track. Ha 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 ha. So he's MCing on that thing, he's styling on that song, and that wasn't the only stuff they released. He released a lot of music, both with Grandmaster Flash. A lot of people think that Grandmaster Flash was rapping on the track. No, Grandmaster Flash was the DJ. Melle Mel was one of the MCs, the most prominent MC from that collective. But yeah, Melle Mel, a super important MC to the entire history of hip hop. Melle Mel, he knows what he's talking about when he's talking about MCing and what it takes to be a great rapper. Again, The Message is arguably a top 5 rap song of all time. Some might even have it as high as 1. This is when there was a transition from the emphasis being on the DJ, because hip hop was DJ based musically when it started, and Melle Mel was coming around just when it was transitioning from being almost all about the DJ to kind of placing more emphasis in the raps, the actual verses and lyrics of the song. So, Melle Mel it's been said, or at least rumored, that he's one of the first, if not the first, to even be called an MC. So he's one of the people credited with being among the first, not even great MCs, but just MCs who are recognized as an MC. But what he was taking issue with was that, or the claim that he was making was that Eminem is in the top 5 because he's white and he doesn't belong in the top 5. He also had some other criticisms like Lil Wayne saying that he doesn't belong in the top 10 because he uses auto-tune. So we could get to that a little bit later. But the charge that Eminem is in the top 5 because he's white. Now, just to let you know, the Billboard top 5 was at number 1, Jay-Z, number 2, Kendrick Lamar, number 3, Nas, number 4, Tupac, and then number 5, Eminem. So the way I would parse that argument, and he was saying basically if Eminem was black, he'd be just another black rapper, basically. Or if Melle Mel was white, they would be saying that Melle Mel was greater than Elvis. That's the claim that he was making. And that, there's so many black MCs that are just as good as Eminem that don't get the credit and the reputation of Eminem. So is Eminem one of the most famous rappers of all time because he's white? Maybe. Yes, I would go as far as to saying yes, and let me explain this. Is it also true that he deserves to be in the top 5 greatest rappers of all time? I would say very possibly yes. I think that there is a strong argument that could be made for Eminem being a top 5 rapper of all time. So what I'm saying is both can be true. He can be in the position that he's in not only in terms of sales, but just to have the opportunity to get signed in the way that he was by Dr. Dre upon discovery. They dyed his hair blonde. Eminem's not a natural blonde. They gave him blue contacts. I mean, Eminem was rapping about the blonde dye and, the blue contacts. He was rapping about these in the Marshall Mathers LP. So opportunity might have come a little bit more emphatically and dramatically to Eminem in this case because he was white, where once you do have that spotlight on you, you're on Aftermath when Aftermath was just really launching. People forget about Dr. Dre's Been There, Done There, Aftermath phase just before that, a couple years prior. But did Eminem have a chance at reaching a much wider audience because he was a Caucasian rapper? I believe so, yes. I don't think that if Eminem was black, he would have sold 10 million records with the Marshall Mathers LP. And I definitely don't think he would be continuing to sell and be among the biggest sellers till this day. Eminem has yet to hit anything less than #1 after the Slim Shady LP. Believe it or not, Slim Shady, I think, is the only one that hit like #2. I think it might have peaked at 2. Whereas every album that he's dropped since for the past 20 years have hit #1. I don't think that would have been the case if Eminem was not white. But I also think he's one of the best 5 rappers of all time. I mean, lyrically, it's undeniable what he did to the game when given the opportunity in 99, 2000 was to assert himself as one of the most creative voices in music history, not even just hip hop history, but in music history. I mean, he sounds like he could paint a Alfred Hitchcock horror flick on the track when his imagination gets going. So it's a mix of lyricism. It's a mix of, you know, not only what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And yes, there are a lot of word gymnastics at play with Eminem. I mean, look no further than on I'm Back from the Marshall Mathers LP, where he says, so I just throw up a middle finger and let it linger longer than the rumor that I was sticking it to Christina. Cause if I ever stuck it to any singer in showbiz, it'd be Jennifer Lopez. And Puffy, you know this. Sorry, Puff, but I don't give a if the chick was my own mother, I still her with no rubber and inside her and have a son and a new brother at the same time and just say that it ain't mine. What's my name? Like, people weren't doing that before Eminem in the way that he was doing it. And the thing is, I mean, he could take like a fictional narrative and just run with it and just paint the most hilarious scenario. I mean, listen to his diss tracks on Benzino, on Everlast. I mean, especially in that pocket between 99 and like 2002. So we'll talk like from the Slim Shady LP to the Eminem show. I mean, was there another MC that was even close during that little era? I mean, I feel like Eminem was capturing the imagination. And yes, there were other outstanding rappers at that time. That was, you know, prime Outkast, and, you know, Redman was still making great music. DMX was in his early career run. Jay-Z was really heating up with the Hard Knock Life album and Life and Times of Sean Carter, Volume 3. But verse for verse, nobody had the pen that Eminem did at that time. Like, even if you listen to Eminem's feature on Jay-Z's Renegade, look, The Blueprint is one of my favorite, and I think one of the best rap albums of all time. But on that song, if you compare the lyricism in Jay's verse with the lyricism in Eminem's verse, I mean, when Eminem came in with the "I can do good, it's too bad you couldn't do good in marriage," that whole thing, like, he could just take one rhyme scheme and basically connect like 4 different rhyme points within like 1 bar or 2 bars with like 7 different points of rhyme, and then be able to replicate that or to play with it for like the next 15 to 20 seconds within that little pocket of the verse. Eminem was really just expanding what was possible for an MC. And yes, he did have his influences. He was a big Cannabis fan. He was a Redman fan. Redman to Eminem, at least according to the Till I Collapse song, was #1. Redman is #1 to Eminem. And I mean, I shot and interviewed one of Eminem's biggest influences, Master Ace. I mean, you could listen to Master Ace, great catalog, great MC. He's actually one of the Juice Crew, original Juice Crew members. And anything from like Master Ace's Slaughterhouse album in the early 90s to, you know, towards the 2000s with Disposable Arts. Great catalog. And yes, he does have a lot of tricky wordplay. And yes, he does have some of the inflections, especially if you look at early Eminem career, where if you take a song like Brain Damage and the way that he's, you know, rhyming there, you could listen to some Master Ace verses and say, oh yeah, Eminem got that thing where you start rhyming in a certain way and then you kind of run the red light. You don't stop at the end of the measure. You carry it beyond the measure and connect the next rhyme just on the heels of that. I feel like there's a lot of influence there. And by the way, it was an honor to be able to not only just hang out with Master Ace and his boy Strickland when they came to Anaheim to perform at the House of Blues. Master Ace was opening for DMX. This was like a few years ago, but yeah, I got to hang with him. He was coming out with a shoe, got to interview him, got to shoot his show from the stage at the House of Blues, stayed on stage for the DMX show too, rest in peace. But yeah, Eminem makes he'll tell you that LL Cool J is a influence to Eminem. So he's got a lot of influences, and yes, those MCs are black and not white. All I'm saying is, look, even if you look at Eminem's rhymes today, no, I don't love his music. No, I don't spend a ton of time bumping Eminem's latest albums frequently. But if you listen to like Music to Be Murdered By or Kamikaze, or a few years, before that with Recovery, that's a very good album, quality album from front to back. But if you listen verse for verse, even today, what was the song that opens up Kamikaze? I think it's called The Ringer. Listen to that song and tell me who today, whether you're talking about Jid or some of the most phenomenal MCs today, if they can hang with Eminem verse for verse. Most MCs of today will tell you, nah, that's still a little bit advanced for me. So Eminem hasn't even stopped improving. Now he's almost just he's like artificial intelligence when it comes to what's possible in an Eminem verse today. Almost where his mind is just on another planet when it comes to putting the rhymes together. But early Eminem career, I'm talking Marshall Mathers LP, phenomenal album, Slim Shady LP, Eminem Show. Yes, Eminem asserted himself as soon as Dre allowed him and gave him the platform to kick the door down. Eminem lyrically has never looked back. So if you're talking about lyrics, yes, Eminem is absolutely top 5. To me, there is no debate about that. But if Melle Mel meant that Eminem isn't one of the most, in the traditional sense, greatest MCs. Now, there's a little bit of nuance there, because traditionally an MC had to have like if not a strong voice, because like Q-Tip doesn't have the strongest voice, but there was a resonance when you listen to like a KRS-One on the stage, or when you listen to a Chuck D of Public Enemy on the stage. You listen to Black Thought from The Roots on stage. And yes, Melle Mel, when you listen to these live MCs where it was Master of Ceremonies, or like Rakim said, move the crowd, you had to have an energizing presence about you when you're on the stage, and your voice had to be able to reach the people. Eminem on stage has a little bit of a thin voice. Like a lot of the magic in Eminem's music, you have to get from the actual recording, like you have to listen to the album. And maybe that's why Melle Mel felt the way that he did about Lil Wayne, and Lil Wayne using auto-tune almost as a voice assisting or augmenting tool. So if he's deducting points because of that, okay, maybe there's a little something that could be said about it. If he's talking lyrically, I'm almost certain that he's not. I would like to believe he's not talking lyrically, because I feel like he should know better if we're talking about the creativity, the words and the phrases and the phrasing, like what you say and how you say it. I feel like it's undeniable. Like there's a mastery in Eminem's lyricism that I feel like few have ever not even reached, but gotten close to. But in terms of the live aspect, it's just a man and a microphone, go. Like we'll put on any sort of a beat. Let's see if you could move this crowd. Let's see if you could energize the people. I don't think Eminem is the greatest MC in that regard. So if that's what Melle Mel meant, okay, maybe there's an argument for it. But in terms of, look, there's just too many other ingredients that Eminem has that it just makes it really hard to deny him at least top 5 consideration. Now, I don't love this Rolling Stone list. For instance, I think it's ridiculous that you have 3 members of Young Money in the top 10. To me, already we're in get the hell out of here territory. Like you've got Nicki Minaj ahead of Andre 3000, ahead of Ice Cube. I mean, there's just no way no. So you've got 3 members of one crew in the top 10. To me, that in itself gets a side eye. They are all 3 great rappers, and maybe 2 out of the 3, Drake and Lil Wayne, maybe them 2 in the top 10, maybe. But yeah, you can't have all 3. Nicki Minaj is not a top 10 rapper of all time. She's an outstanding rapper. She's made a couple of good albums, maybe 3 good albums max, but she was pioneering in her own way. But yeah, there are a lot of things that I take issue with on this list. Like, again, they had Nicki Minaj ahead of Rakim. Yes, this was not a perfect list by any stretch, but I don't think that your point of attack on this list should start with, why is Eminem in the top 5? I don't think you should start there. And quite frankly, it's hard to do these lists because you have to consider so many different generations. So if you're like heavy on the now or near now generation, and then you've got, you know, Rakim outside of the top 10, KRS outside of the top 10, you've got LL Cool J at number 14. Whew, yeah, I don't think so. I throw a challenge flag at that one, but I agree with Melle Mel in one regard, and I disagree with him in one regard. I agree that Eminem was afforded more opportunity and more exposure for that whole thing that they had going on to blow up as big as humanly possible, partially because he is white. He had to be talented as hell. He had to prove himself time and time again. But I do think that his race, at least, look, it probably denied him opportunity. That's the ironic part. At first, when he was trying to get in the game and he was just another rapper from Detroit, I think that he probably met a lot of cynicism and a lot of, I don't think this guy's got it, because he was white. And then years later, when given the opportunity, when given the spotlight, when given the platform, he also gets to blow up bigger than anybody ever, also because he's white. Both of those things could be true, and those things could be true as well as, and Eminem deserves top 5 consideration in terms of best MCs of all time. All of those things could be true. Let me know your thoughts on Eminem and where you think his place in hip hop history is. And have you taken a look at this Billboard top 50 list? And if so, what did you think about it? And what did you think about Melle Mel's comments? And it sounded like Melle Mel was willing to put Busta Rhymes as perhaps the greatest rapper of all time. So that tells you what I mean by the traditional sense of the word MC, in terms of Busta Rhymes being able to take the stage and sound like he sounds. Whether you're rapping fast, rapping slow, you could pretty much hear every word Busta Rhymes has going on. He's got so much energy. I mean, look at young, skinny Busta Rhymes, how he took the stage and what his performance was like when he would have the kind of like the dance choreography, not choreography per se, but just kind of the chemistry that he had with his hype man Spliff Star. Like those years of young Bus from The Coming through, we'll say like maybe Anarchy or The Big Bang, like that was a moment. Like those years, that was phenomenal for Busta Rhymes to have the animation and the energy that he did, and have the ability to rap the way that he did and be as versatile as he was. But you can't make the argument that Busta Rhymes is a better lyricist than Eminem. You just can't make that argument. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on not only the Billboard list, but on Melle Mel's comments about Eminem and about Lil Wayne in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love hip hop like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.